Okay. Hello, Heiko. Thanks for joining us today. We're gonna I guess get right to it. So with the first question, tell us something about where you are right now.
Right. First, thanks for the invitation. My pleasure, my privilege. And I'm currently in Medellín, Colombia. So second biggest city of Colombia. The city of eternal spring, although we've had lots of spring rain for the last, I believe, 4 months. But yeah, I've been living here for the last, 15 years, and no regrets at all.
Oh, interesting. And so briefly, what do you do?
I'm a professor in the area department of global management. So that would be IB, international business mainly. I'm also in charge of our PhD program in management. So heading that at the moment. And I believe it's one of the largest ones in Colombia with over 50 doctoral students at Universidad EAFIT, which is a private university. Yep, here in Medellín, 12,000 students roundabout. So that might give you an idea.
Okay. Up to you, Deborah.
Yeah, well, that's great. So moving on to practice theory, when you did first encounter practice theory?
First semester of my PhD, and I entered practice theory first via the prior project of my first PhD supervisor. He had done some studying of strategizing via diaries, etc., in international new ventures. And there was this thing called strategy as practice that he was very interested in and kind of told me to read up on that. I did a little bit of the typical strategy as practice reading, and then I thought I'd to go back maybe in time, and I started reading a little bit of Giddens. And I think Giddens was actually the first entry, like the first practice theorist who really convinced me about the importance of studying practices and taking a practice approach to research. I then kind of I encountered Schatzky, but Deborah might know that. When the pandemic hit, there were opportunities to participate in lots of European spaces online. So one of the first spaces I did participate in was the Warwick Summer School on Practice and Process Research, because I really wanted to get a little bit more in touch with people who were doing research and management organization studies from a practice perspective. And that really opened my mind and basically set me on a journey to read and discover more and do a little bit more of practical research also using practice theories, empirical research.
And as you set on that journey, what attracted you to practice theory?
So I started, my PhD thesis was about the unfolding of strategy making in new ventures, right? And in a previous life, I started 2 small businesses, which was kind of part of the motivation for my studying how people change the way they think and do strategy as they go along in their entrepreneurial journeys. And I was deeply disappointed and sometimes offended to see the way that these experiences were being portrayed in much of the academic literature. I remember a couple of papers, I still feel viscerally that there were these reflections of the endogenization of survival possibilities in the decision-making of entrepreneurs when contemplating their internationalization, something of the sort. I was like, this is not how things happen in real life. This is not how anybody I have ever met who is an entrepreneur does things, right? And thinks about things. And practice theory kind of has a much more kind and understanding, and in my view, realistic and useful portrayal about the way that entrepreneurs go about doing things and growing their ventures, but also failing, and in general life, right? Yeah.
And what ideas are you currently working with?
Currently, I'm super interested in entrepreneurial ecosystems because I think there's many missing links, and it's very important in policy making, right? Entrepreneurial ecosystems, especially in Medellín, especially in Colombia, it's one of these big buzzwords, and it's one very, very influential big policy objective. So it's really important and influential in my city, which Medellín has become. But I think the way we're currently thinking about this is there's a big gap. And I remember talking to Neil Thompson and who does entrepreneurship as practice a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying there is a little bit of a epistemological schizophrenia in the research community, who also do a little bit of consulting on policy making and public policy in this entrepreneurial ecosystem space. And I think practice theories have really nice complementary answers to this. And what I'm currently looking at, or how I'm looking at this and trying to think about this, is practice theories that I haven't worked with before, which I'm very excited about. Cultural historical activity theory and theory of practice architectures. So chemists and both of these.
Thanks. And now I give the floor to the anthropologist.
Thank you. So as you can tell from the hat, I'm pretending to be an anthropologist, and I'm interested in tribes and, you know, what groups you're part of. But first, I'd like to go back a bit. You mentioned Giddens, and that's quite unusual because from my reading, quite a lot of the work that that you're referring to as well takes practice to simply mean doing. You know, doing strategy, doing entrepreneurship, and it's you know, it's about the everyday work of doing. But Giddens is something else. Giddens is not just about doing. So how do you put those two together?
So Giddens was a long time ago for me. It was kind of an entry. So you're asking about tribes, right? I started in the department of IB, and international business is quite far away, is rather economic, right? Much of the tradition in IB is very much transaction cost theory, very economic and very far away from sociological perspectives. And I'm have become a very outsider person when I go to some sort of international business conferences. Giddens was a way of reconciling and finding my way into practice theory. I don't think I have, after my PhD proposal, I don't think I've used Giddens anymore, and that was at least 3 or 4 years ago. But it was a nice way in. It was a nice way to reconcile very micro foundational literature with all of these macro structures.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I have abandoned that.
Yeah. So both practice theory and Giddens sort of escape the micro-macro trap, and that's what's common for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask properly about tribes now. So we've captured you on the boat of practice theory, but what kind of tribes were you part of? Do you talk about these ideas with people who agree with you or who disagree with you, or what worlds are you part of?
So I'm straddling different research communities, right? And also geographically straddling different research communities. So
Yep.
part of different conversations, and it's sometimes hard to be really part of the tribe if you want to, when you do that. Like, probably more building bridges and putting my nose into different research communities. On the one hand, SAP at AOM has been great because it's not only about the hardcore strategy focus, but you'll find many people who are doing a little bit more of entrepreneurship as practice, and that's the other community, right? Entrepreneurship as practice community. And the more wider practice theory community is super interesting. It's where I get most of my inspiration from. There are many process scholars who do quite similar research, and I was very much interested in that because I was studying, and I keep studying different aspects in real-time longitudinal. So, for example, my PhD thesis was over 3.5 years of basically sitting regularly in that startup. Yeah. And then IB, I'm trying to go at least to the Latin American AIB, Academy of International Business community, and maybe shake up some of the thoughts and introduce some weird and uncomfortable ideas from time to time, which in general is very well received, right? And we have a significant group here at EAFIT actually, who do a lot of work surrounding practice theory, a lot of especially strategy as practice as well.
Okay, so you're quite connected geographically and also I like it that you're talking about sort of not exactly irritating different worlds, but bringing new ideas into different worlds. So that's quite nice and interesting to learn about for sure. So now we're coming to an end. This is just a short port call, and we'd like a souvenir of our trip to visit you. So do you have something you could share, a picture or an object you can show us?
Yeah. I hope I can do this virtual artifact, because I was actually thinking these port calls and in terms of connecting communities, etc., and talking about the community. I thought I'd show you a picture. So
yeah.
just in order for you to get an idea, last December we had a Latin American practice and process gathering, and I don't know if you can spot some familiar faces. I think you talked to Rosalia, and there's some of the of our usual practice community participants there, but we have lots and lots of people in Latin America and especially EAFIT who do practice and/or process research. So I thought, in the name of them, I'd show you the picture and tell them we said hi. Tell you we said hi. So
that's great.
That's a little
bit. It connects with the next and the last question, which is well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Where should we go next? So who should we talk to next?
I thought about that. I think you should talk to Poliana Batista da Silva. She should be on the practice theory map, and I think she's still on the map. She's still affiliated with USP, with the University of Sao Paulo. I think she's recently moved to Bahia, and she does very, very interesting work with practice theories and in virtual spaces. So that might be very interesting talking to her.
Well, while we're sort of in that kind of ocean, then maybe we should go there.
Perfect.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and to the pirate and the captain as well from the anthropologist. So yeah, great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Can I take off the hat?